Welcome to day 2 in our study of the book of Ecclesiastes. Today's lesson is entitled, There is Nothing New Under the Sun, from Ecclesiastes chapter 1 and verse 9. We'll be reading verses 1 through 11 to give our passage its context. The words of the preacher, the son of David, king in Jerusalem. Vanity of vanities, says the preacher. Vanity of vanities, all is vanity. What does a man gain by all the toil at which he toils under the sun? A generation goes, and a generation comes, but the earth remains forever. The sun rises and the sun goes down, and hastens to the place where it rises. The wind blows to the south and goes around to the north. Around and around goes the wind, and on its circuits the wind returns. All streams run to the sea, but the sea is not full. To the place where the streams flow, there they flow again. All things are full of weariness. A man cannot utter it. The eye is not satisfied with seeing, nor the ear filled with hearing. What has been is what will be, and what has been done is what will be done. And there is nothing new under the sun. Is there a thing of which it is said, See, this is new? It has already been in the ages before us. There is no remembrance of former things, nor will there be any remembrance of latter things, yet to be among those who come after. See if you recognize these statements. The more things change, the more they stay the same. Things are more like they are now than they have ever been. Same old, same old. C'est la vie. Same thing, different day. It's like deja vu all over again. I've spoken in other devotionals of the timeless plots in literature. Rudyard Kipling believed that there were 69 story plots. But the so-called experts have boiled them down to plots, and the most common number of plots is 7. You may have your own opinion, as do I. But let's look at those 7 and see what those so-called experts have come up with. This is from the storytelling website, sparkle.com. The same 7 are found at other places as well. The first theme in a plot is overcoming the monster. The main character sets out to defeat a powerful foe. Theme number 2 is rags to riches. The hero from humble beginnings gains the thing that he or she wants, money, power, a partner, then loses it and has to fight to get it back again. Number 3 is the voyage and return. The main character travels to an unfamiliar place, meeting new characters and overcoming a series of trials, all the while trying to get home. The quest. The hero sets out in search of a specific prize, overcoming a series of challenges and temptations. Number 5 is the comedy, a lighthearted story which centers on some confusion leading to conflict before a happy conclusion and celebrations. On the opposite side of the comedy is number 6, the tragedy, where the main character faces temptation and is compelled to break rules of society, setting in motion a series of events that lead to their downfall and sometimes their death. Last in this list of 7 is the rebirth. The main character is a bad or unpleasant person who is shown the error of their ways and redeems themselves over the course of the story. You may think of certain movies or books that you have read that fit neatly into one of those categories. Scientists call the repeating pattern in nature a fractal. From snowflakes to lightning to galaxies, they see the patterns over and over in these. Here's the equation in case you want to check this out. Z leads to z squared plus c. Albert Einstein summed up a whole lot when he said E equals mc squared. Human behaviors haven't changed. We may have different names for them, but they boil down to the same old, same old. Amazing how Solomon summed this all up when he said in verse 9, What has been is what will be, and what has been done is what will be done, and there is nothing new under the sun. But what about inventions, the scoffers and skeptics might ask? Yes, there are new inventions, but humans are still subject to the same behaviors. Spaceships, telescopes, and computers haven't changed man's propensity to discover and search. These modern means have not changed man's propensity for evil as well. Weaponizing rockets for war came from the same research on rocketry. Spying came from the same optics and telescopes that brought spy satellites. Computers that allow us almost instant access to information are used by hackers to steal, pornography for addicts, bullying, threats, and on and on. Those 7 deadly sins that were around in Solomon's day are still here, alive and well. Lust, gluttony, greed, sloth, wrath, envy, and pride. Solomon seems to paint a rather bleak outlook on life as he begins this discourse on life. He will ask 2 important questions for the reader to consider in this passage. The first question comes from verse 3 of Ecclesiastes 1. What does man gain by all the toil at which he toils under the sun? And second, Ecclesiastes chapter 1 and verse 10, where he asks, is there a thing of which it is said, see, this is new? It has already been in ages before us. Both of these are asked in the context of things under the sun. That term under the sun is one that Solomon will use 28 times in Ecclesiastes. In fact, nowhere else in the Bible is this term used. It means properly what happens here on earth. From those 2 questions that Solomon poses here, all of Ecclesiastes will be based. Over and over, Solomon will ask that question of what is man's profit for his toils? Here in verse 3, again in chapter 2 and verse 22, and again in chapter 3 and verse 9. He will also show what he gained from all his toils and endeavors. But don't worry, Solomon will indeed answer all those questions he will pose throughout the book. Yet before it is answered, he and we must make that journey of discovery to see the truth in what he will reveal at the very last of the book. Man often overestimates his importance as it relates to the world, yes, the universe around him. Solomon answers with startling clarity that generation after generation comes and goes, yet the earth remains, the sun follows its course, so too the wind and the cycle of water as well. As important as each moment seems to us, by and large, they are forgotten. However much we strive to keep them near. How much more those lauded accomplishments by the ancients? For the untold millions, yes, billions of lives that have come and gone, we have almost nothing, comparatively speaking, of their accomplishments. Yes, we have what has been preserved in scriptures and a few parchments and scrolls from antiquity. But remember, there were 1,000,000 scrolls in the library of Alexandria, in Egypt, the Indian subcontinent, Greece, Ethiopia, China, and on and on. They're all gone. Just as Solomon said. So too, for all our efforts, will be the fate of our modern world. All vanity, a chasing after the wind. So we shall see in tomorrow's lesson. Have you thought of what will become of your labor and toil here under the sun? And Lord willing, let's meet here again tomorrow and look at another lesson from the book of Ecclesiastes.